Rental licensing and inspection programs only punish landlords and do not prevent properties from falling into squalor and disrepair. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic for you today, and I've gone over this topic before, and it has to do with rental licensing and inspection programs. Okay, so cities all throughout the country, including my own here in Omaha, Nebraska, have tried to implement these types of programs with the hope of, weeding out those bad landlords who leave their properties in disrepair. The only problem is that when they put these programs in place, they don't stop the bad landlords from still being bad landlords. And instead, they punish the good landlords who are already doing everything they should be doing by making them pay ridiculous fees, jump through all sorts of stupid hoops, license their properties, and then they get punished when the inspector comes by, finds some little small ridiculous thing to repair, and it ends up costing them thousands, okay? This is what happens. This is why I am so dead set against these sort of programs, okay? And the tenants, they're not benefiting from their properties no longer being in squalor because those bad landlords, even though they're a very small percentage of landlords, they just don't care. They will not register their properties. They will not follow the rules, and it will just remain a problem. So, if they think that these programs are actually going to improve anything, they are living in fantasy world. But I don't think they actually believe that. What I think they're trying to do is, one, they're trying to give the impression to the voters that they are doing something about the problem, right? And the reason they're doing that is so they can continue to get more votes. And two, they're trying to increase the size of the bureaucracy. So all these programs, they come with, new inspectors and, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars of budget. And hey, now we got more jobs going around, and, it's a cash grab. It's a cash grab, simply put. And I don't like that kind of thing being on the backs of landlords. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. What do you think of building inspection and licensing programs, okay? Do you really think that it's going to help, prevent squalor and disrepair of rental properties? I don't, okay? I think it is useless. I think it does not prevent anything, okay? And all it's really doing is just making things, actually, it makes things more expensive, because you know what? Landlords are going to push those additional costs onto the backs of the renters by increasing rents. I guess that's also why in most big cities they try to push for rent control. Well, all of your bureaucracy is actually what's causing these higher costs. Anyway, let's get into this article. It's coming from fredericknewspost.com, and it says, a letter to the editor. Say no to the city's proposed rental housing licensing program. Yeah, and it's a letter to the editor, so it's not an actual article. It's an opinion piece, essentially, right? But I like the points that the person who wrote this made, and, I agree with everything. So let's get into it. And Frederick, I should mention, is in Maryland, I believe. So let's keep going. The city of Frederick is proposing to enact a rental housing licensing and inspection program at an annual cost of $600,000. I am adamantly opposed to rental licensing, primarily because the fees will simply be passed on to renters in the form of rent increases. It's really as simple as that. But here are a few other factors to consider. Yeah, and brings up the exact point I just said. Hey, all these fees, all these costs, okay? If a landlord has to pay hundreds of dollars for an inspection fee every single year, well, do you think the landlord's just going to say, well, I'm going to keep my rents the exact same, but this extra $500 fee that I have to pay all of a sudden, I'm just going to eat that out of my... No. Guess what? Rent's up $500 for the year, I mean. Anyway, in a March 9th, 2022 article in the Frederick News Post, Ryan Trout, who reportedly helped Alderwoman Donna Kuzimchak develop the rental licensing legislation, is quoted as saying, However, squalor cannot be the answer. Mr. Trout is referring to the prospect of the rental licensing program preventing or addressing any squalid housing conditions in Frederick. Exactly where is the squalid housing in Frederick? Can't or won't owner-occupied housing fall into disrepair and squalor? Or is squalor always restricted to renters? Yeah, and that's another good point that, I always forget. Hey, these programs that are supposed to take care of squalor and take care of, all these issues that this housing has, they're always targeted just at rental housing. So what you have in a lot of situations, and you'll see this in places like, Detroit or whatever, right? You'll have, whole neighborhood, some of the houses will be rental, some of them will be owner occupied, right? The rental house has to comply with all the city, inspection and licensing and all that and be in a certain condition. And the inspectors will come by and they'll be nitpicking. Oh, no, you have a crack in the sidewalk here. Oh, nope, you have paint peeling, and force the landlord to spend thousands of dollars fixing those repairs. But nobody goes and inspects the houses right next door to it that are owner occupied. Right? And those houses are even worse condition. They're in horrible condition, dilapidated, falling apart. The inspector doesn't care. So how is this stopping anything? How is this preventing squalor or disrepair in the whole community? No, the only reason they're coming after landlords is because they know landlords in general want to keep their properties in working order and comply with the city so that they can keep renting them out. Whereas homeowners, most of them don't care. So, the only way that a property inspection program or a program like this would work would be if you enforced it upon all property owners. But I'm not saying they should do that either. I think these programs are useless. Okay. What's the justification for the expensive program? In the executive summary accompanying the proposed ordinance, there are no statistics from the Code Enforcement Department, no examples of violations, and absolutely no proof of significant violations. There are also no examples to disprove the effectiveness of a complaint-based enforcement program. Without any documentation of need, statistical information metrics, or even anecdotal information, the city is proposing to establish a rental licensing program with a startup cost of $130,000 and an annual operating cost of $600,000. The fees include a $120 annual registration fee per unit, a fee of $300 for a second reinspection, and fines of $1,000 a day for any owners found in violation who continue to rent their unit that was found to be in violation. So yeah, and those are, they couldn't have said it better Myself, okay? So they implemented this program in the city, and this is the way they always do it, okay? This is the same thing they did here, okay? They had one bad landlord here in Omaha, right, who, let their apartment building go into disrepair, right? But that was one anecdotal example that wasn't proof of a systemic problem. That wasn't proof that landlords throughout the city were allowing their units to go into disrepair. So, there's no examples to disprove the effectiveness of a complaint-based enforcement program. And that's a big one right there, okay? So a complaint-based system is all that's needed. If a problem exists, the tenants can make a complaint, or the neighbors or whoever, and say, hey, come fix it. Otherwise, it's not an issue. Okay, otherwise you're paying people salaries so that they have good reason to go nitpick little garbage that doesn't really need to be fixed, okay? Cracked paint and oh, there's a crack in the sidewalk here. You need to fix it, landlord. You go spend hundreds of dollars on concrete repairs because I need to justify my existence in this bureaucracy. That's the problem with having inspectors out there every single day. Considering that the U.S. economy is struggling with the after effects of the COVID pandemic, it is a terrible time for a local government to do anything that would increase rents, unless displacement and further gentrification are the underlying goals. Now is not the time to establish a poorly developed rental licensing program that will increase the cost of rental housing and predominantly impact households with limited incomes who are already struggling to survive. I truly hope Maryland Legal Aid and the Homeless Persons Representation Project are paying attention. Yeah, well, I agree, okay? Now, I don't know if this person is a landlord or not, but you know what? Sounds like this person is a landlord, because most tenants, advocates, and all that, they don't see things through this sort of perspective. The only thing they can see is, oh, well, this one landlord was bad, so therefore all of them are bad. Shut up, okay? Just shut up with that garbage. Take it out and face the facts that 99% of landlords are doing everything they should be doing right now. That a complaint-based system where, a tenant has the opportunity to call a city inspector to come out and check it out, it's not only more efficient, but it is all that is needed in most cases, okay? And that, simply put, we're going to charge all these additional costs back to the tenant, making housing less affordable, and that is not the desired goal.